right, welcome in episode 2 of the Big Hitters Only podcast. You might recognize this guy's face, Adam Smith, beat writer extraordinaire for Inside Carolina, former coworker of mine. I've been covering the ACC, Elon, UNC, Duke State for a long time, and now strictly the Tar Heels for IC. One of my best friends in the world.
I was going to say, can I get a best friend shout out in there? I was
best friend. Great father, dedicated husband, friend of all, charismatic, and obviously one of the more locked in guys covering UNC football, and that's what we're having here on this podcast ahead of the season opener against Minnesota. We're recording Saturday morning, August 24th. Adam got muffins for his family. He's being fueled by coffee. I got a coffee. I got my run in this morning. We're ready to go. Adam?
Hello. I mean, what an intro. Yeah. It's great to see you. I got to see you in person yesterday, and it's great to be on the Big Hitters podcast. I mean, I don't know if we need to get into the name of the Big Hitters. I don't know if I qualify as a big hitter, maybe a slap hitter. I know you're a big baseball guy. Punch and Judy hitter. Is that even a thing? I think it is.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I don't know about.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I see you pulling your ear there.
Let's get into it. All right. I want you to give me an elevator pitch. If you were to describe to like a casual fan this 2024 UNC Tar Heel team, like in the season, give me your elevator pitch for what's going on. Like summarize kind of the preseason and this team heading into the season. Then we're going to get into quarterbacks because that was the news of the day yesterday after the Mack Brown press conference.
I mean, I don't know, Ross. I think that elevator pitch. I think that all of these games that they're going to play are winnable. I mean, maybe not the game at Florida State in November. You would think they'd be a decided underdog for that one. But I thought it was kind of funny yesterday when our cohort Art Chansky told Mack Brown that their schedule sucks. I mean, it was kind of hilarious. Like, your schedule is incredibly weak, or the weakest, whatever. It is the 94th ranked schedule in terms of strength of schedule, the FPI. And there are only 122, I think, teams on the FBS level. We'd have to look it up. I mean, this is not college basketball where there's 350 teams. If you're 94th, you're down there at the bottom. But, I mean, I think in terms of an overall record, they could win 8 or 9 or 10 games. I mean, I really do. But it's just, I was thinking about how to describe it, and it's just sort of, you sort of get there's sort of all these contradictory things that you feel like. I feel like that UNC's team last year was much more talented. I mean, how could you not be with like Drake May and Tez Walker and Cedric Gray, guys who are all in the NFL running around? They're not here anymore. It's going to be, in my opinion, a huge drop-off in talent at quarterback. But I do think their depth, maybe I've been drinking the Kool-Aid this preseason too much. I do think their depth, I think there's more depth that they have across the board at various positions. So, I think you could, from 1,000-yard view, just look at their record 5 years from now and be like, oh, okay, yeah, Mack and those guys, they won 9 games in 2022, won 8 games in 2023. This could be 8 or 9 or 10 wins. I think that's what it could be, but I think the way they go about it could be obviously different than what UNC fans have watched the last couple of years.
Hey, 8 wins is pretty good around here, right? Isn't that what Mack said?
Yeah, that'll get you in trouble with some of the fans, I think.
That's right. Okay, so you mentioned depth at certain positions. Like when you're looking at this team, what position groups do you really like right now heading into the Minnesota game? Which ones are you like, all right, this could be something they could lean on. This could be something they could, be the crutch of their offense or their defense.
Not the offensive line.
Well, Mack seems confident though, right? About that group?
That we could do an hour on this, Ross. I mean, I don't get it. I was trying to look up the number, when we were playing around in the studio here before coming on, where our guy Greg Barnes at Inside Carolina, who has better numbers than anyone, he found a stat this offseason that the last 5 years, no one in Power 5, which of course is now Power 4, has given up more sacks in college football than the UNC Tar Heels, and it's not even close. And you know who the quarterbacks were during those 5 years? Sam Howell and Drake May. I mean, both extremely mobile dudes that could get away from pressure, elude pressure. Now you've got an offensive line that returns one starter. You have an offensive line with a left tackle and a right tackle who have never started a game in college football ever.
That should be so scary.
I think it's terrifying, especially when you have presumably you have Max Johnson starting at quarterback, and no one. I'm more stats for you. No returning quarterback in power football, in college football, threw more passes under pressure last year, because the knock on Max Johnson is he holds on to the ball too long. Which you could also say that speaks to his toughness, obviously. Going to stand in there and deliver the ball no matter if he's getting, guys in his face. But to answer your question, we can go back to the offensive line if you want to. Tight end, they have two great tight ends. Bryson Nesbitt, first team All-ACC guy, super talented. I think Bryson Nesbitt is underrated. He's so athletic. He's so long. He's so stretchy. I don't know if UNC fans saw one of the videos the football team put out this year. They were down in the Dean Dome playing basketball, and he's like dunking between his legs, like Kobe from back, like young Kobe with the fro. He's doing the Isaiah Ryder. I think that's the dunk it was. He's great. If you think about, Ross, that the Duke game last year at UNC, they won in 2 overtimes. Drake May was special, but Bryson Nesbitt was a monster in that game. He helped them win the game. They don't win the game without him. Some of those catches he made in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
John Copenhaver is back at tight end. After being hurt, after being banged up all season. So I would say tight end's definitely a strong point.
And then obviously Amar and Hampton at running back. They like Darwin Barlow. I've talked about this a lot already on various interviews for this podcast, and you're the guy that's kind of in the weeds. Is there a player on offense? Let's go wide receiver. Is there someone you're kind of excited about at wide receiver? I think that's kind of an unknown outside of the guy. But J.J. Jones, he's kind of a possession receiver. Mm-hmm. They got some guys that have caught some passes. But is there someone you think can break out in that group? I know that obviously Bryson Nesbitt's essentially kind of a big jumbo wide receiver. But anybody else, a young guy you kind of have heard some stuff about that could be an impact player for the quarterback this year?
Very nice use of jumbo. I like that.
You like that?
I really like that.
Hey, national editor.
You've been reading some stories. I have to fight myself because I'm excited about Jordan Shipp out there. And the guy was in high school this time last year. He's a true freshman out of Charlotte. He's a stud. Your boy Alex Taylor out of Greensboro Grimsley, Ross, has had some nice moments this preseason. He made one of the few practices that we got to watch. He made a terrific catch over Elijah Huzzy. And Huzzy is a really good corner. But to me, it's Shipp. The problem is he's a true freshman, and you just don't know how many meaningful snaps a guy like that can get. I did think it was interesting when we talked to Lonnie Galloway, who's the wide receivers coach for UNC, a couple days ago, and he kept going on about, we're trying to find guys we can trust, because there's a lot of guys. There's maybe 10 guys that you could throw in there at wide out and play. And I asked him a question like, who do you trust the most? And so when he started listing them off, he said J.J. Jones. He said Nate McCullum. Could be a big year for Nate McCullum. He's healthy. Kobe Paysor, who may not be healthy. Gavin Blackwell.
App State, Kobe Paysor.
He had a nice bowl game too, I think. But you're right. Kobe Paysor, when Josh Downs was hurt, that 1 year, 2022? Some really productive games. He said Gavin Blackwell, but then the fifth guy he mentioned was Jordan Shipp, who, again, he's right out of high school. So I think he's one for down the road. The Jordan Shipps and the Chris Cullivers and the Alex Taylors, one of these days, these guys are going to be making plays for the Tar Heels. I don't know how soon, but heck, you'd almost like to see what they could do with a Drake May at quarterback, not to bash these quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's almost like going back to the last 5 years in a Mack. Like, they had the quarterbacks, but they didn't have the offensive line. They had the quarterbacks, but they, last year maybe lacked the receiver for a couple games where they couldn't get Tez and Nate cooking at the same time. They had a good run game, but didn't have the defense. Always seems like this is why it's UNC football. It's not the SEC. Like they haven't been able to have everything click at once to get to where they need to be, where they can win games with defense or make the plays on offense. It hasn't all come together. I mean, I've talked about this with multiple other podcasts. I mean, the best season was that probably Mike Carter,
Javante.
Javante Williams win at Miami. They went to the Orange Bowl and almost stole the Orange Bowl there from Texas A&M. It just
They
feels
led
like
in the
in this
fourth
year,
quarter.
yeah, I mean, this year they might not have the quarterback, they might not have the offensive line, but they got the running back, and they may have an improved defense. Let's move quickly to defense, and then come back to a quarterback. I think that's kind of the biggest story coming out of the press conference yesterday. Defense
Let
is
me
my
ask you
thoughts.
something, Ross. Let me
Okay,
ask you
I love
something,
it.
if you don't mind.
Let's-
Just you got me thinking as you're talking there about having the different pieces at the different times. Were you as a UNC alum, if I'm allowed to say that, an observer of the Tar Heels for years? Were you offended when Mack said 8 wins is pretty good around? Did you find that offensive? Because some people have been pissed about that.
I mean, I think
Or
it's a little
maybe
bit
I'm
of a
putting you on the
loser.
spot too much.
I mean, hey, I got the freedom to talk now. I don't have to see Mac every day. I don't have to, get thrashed on the boards. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of loser mentality to set your bar there when if you want to be big time football, you want to, you want to win 10 games every year and have a shot for 11, have a shot for 12. And I mean, every team wants that. It's not realistic for everybody, but I think I think Mac, credit to Mac, he's gotten UNC to a point where 8 games should be assumed, especially with this schedule and with the quarterbacks they've had, because those quarterbacks can go out and win you games.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens without one, but yeah, I mean, that's the mentality of UNC football. It's always been 8 wins, maybe 9 wins, and then maybe 6 or 7 wins, and it is loser mentality. You got to set the bar higher, but you have to back it up with recruiting and consistent play on both sides of the ball. And the defense hasn't. I don't think UNC's had a consistent defense it's an 8 to 9 win to 10 win defense. So, but some
Maybe
people
not
are
since
happy with
the
that.
90s. Maybe, I mean,
What'd
when
you
I
say?
was in school, maybe not since the 90s. Maybe.
Yeah.
When I was in school, the
So
defense was pretty nasty.
yeah, let's get to the defense. So this is my take. I mean, correct me here, add some stuff here, but I think it's pretty clear. We talked about this in a couple other interviews already. Like you like the cornerbacks. I don't know safety. I don't know if there's a stud there. The NC State guys, Jakeem Harris.
Jakeem
Um,
Harris to the N.
so both state guys are Harris.
Correct.
Okay.
Joshua
Yeah, yeah.
Harris and Jakeem. There you go. You got it.
Yeah. I think the edge rushers are exciting. We've talked about this. Des Evans. This could be the year. Could be the year, right? Bo Atkinson and Kamen Rucker is proven. My concern is depth at linebacker, and then prove it year for Travis Shaw. There's a reason why they got Josh Harris out of the transfer portal. There's a reason why they
Absolutely.
needed more depth there. Kevin Hester isn't exactly a world beater, maybe consistent there. What stands out to me is on the outside is the edge rusher potential and lockdown corners. I guess the concern would be in the middle, right? The nose tackle, the 3 technique, the 2 linebackers we've talked about a little bit. I mean, they're both undersized. Power Eccles and Amari
Campbell.
Campbell, and then safety. I don't think UNC's had a baller safety for a long, long time.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying.
would love someone to step up and be a guy there, whether that's Jakeem Harris, Stick Lane. Would love to see Will Hardy because he has the size, but he hasn't stayed healthy. So when you kind of step back, elevator pitch here again, defense, like what do you like? What are your concerns? And we're gonna move on to quarterback and then just get loose on some other topics.
I like the sound of getting loose. Man, what I like on defense is Geoff Collins. And he
The
has
Minister of Mayhem.
I mean, yeah, right. They didn't call him the Minister of Mayhem for nothing. He wasn't holding up the money down signs on 3rd down for nothing at Georgia Tech and all those other places, Mississippi State, Florida, Temple. Yeah, I mean, can you say that when he hasn't coached a game for UNC's defense? I do think, and I'm not trying to get off topic, I do think that is one of the reasons why they've been so secretive, for lack of a better word, this preseason. Just maybe so people can't get a look at exactly what Geoff Collins is cooking up. But yeah, I mean, how could you not? Kamen Rucker is a stud on the edge. You mentioned Des Evans, and could it finally be the year? Man, I'm going to tell you, Bo Atkinson looks great behind Des Evans. I mean, you remember Jay Bateman calling him Thor, when they were recruiting him. He is Des is a man. Des may not be a man. He looks like an alien. He looks like he's from another planet. The way he is put together. I mean, he looks unbelievable physically. And Bo is right behind him. I mean, these guys are put together. Physical specimens, I believe I have called them before. But yes, they are thin at linebacker. Look, not to crap talk anyone, but when you were saying like prove it year for Travis Shaw, absolutely. You know who else ain't done that much is Javari Ritzy.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a big rep coming out of what was Winston-Salem Glen, Kernersville Glen.
Good pull.
He had a big rep. Him and Rah, right? I mean, he ain't done much. I mean, with all due respect to him and his family. I mean, he ain't done much. Travis Shaw hadn't done anything. Yeah.
The Mevin's coming out of you right now.
I mean, Kevin Hester, Snoop. No, Scoob is Kevin Hester's name, not Snoop. Scoob. I'm showing my old 40-year-old whiteness here. I mean, he's fine. But yeah, I do think Joshua Harris, Sr., a father of two with a third child on the way, Rawls.
It's ahead of me right now.
I think that was a very important pickup in the portal because not only are they a little thin in the interior on the D-line, they're unproven, in my opinion, with Ritzy and Travis Shaw. They are thin at linebacker. You mentioned Amari Campbell, who steps in for Cedric Gray to start. He broke his hand a couple weeks ago. He's practicing with a cast, big old, club tape job. I mean, the guy's got a broken hand. He's going to go out there and hit people in 5 days, whatever it is. They are deep at safety. They do have two very good corners in Marcus Allen and Elijah Huzzy. I mean, these guys could play with anybody. Will Hardy has had a great preseason. He's healthier and stronger and faster than he's ever been at safety. I do think their starters are Stick Lane. Stick Lane is tiny. I mean, he's like 5'7". And Jakeem Harris with an N is good, I think. So I think they're deep at safety. I think they're talented at corner, but thin at linebacker. And, now don't forget the defensive line does have Ted Monachino coaching the defensive line now. And Tim Cross, who coached them before that, took a lot of heat. They weren't getting enough sacks. So obviously it was the defensive line coach's fault, is what the UNC fan base will tell you. So,
yeah. All right. So to wrap this up, what do you expect from Geoff Collins? Like, what should fans expect differently in this defense coming off Gene Chizik, before that Jay Bateman? Like, is there anything that you've been able to get from interviews with him from spring, from now, that's like, all right, this guy's going to blitz corners, he's going to blitz safeties, he's running a 4-3 attacking, or a 4-2-5? Like, what do we can expect from him? Give me a little elevator pitch here. I'm using that 3 times now.
I think, well, it's the word of the day. I don't even know what an elevator pitch is. I mean, I don't know, but I was just faking it. If I was in a boardroom, I'd get called out. I think aggressiveness is what you're going to see from Geoff Collins. I think that, he's going to live or die with his fastball, and the fastball is to send people. And why the heck not? What was it? The last 2 years under Gene Chizik, I think UNC in 2022, when they went to the ACC championship game, was like 116th in total defense. Carolina improved to 95th in total defense last year. I mean, the reason Geoff Collins got head coaching jobs, at Temple and Georgia Tech, was because when he was the defense coordinator at Mississippi State, when he was the defensive coordinator at Florida, he had elite defenses. And this wasn't Florida of Steve Spurrier where they're winning national championships. This was like Jim McElwain, Florida. The dude that was like naked with the shark on the boat or whatever it was.
Yeah.
This is not vintage Florida, and again, they're playing in the SEC, and his last 2 defenses at Florida were both top 10 national defenses. I mean, he had them rolling. So yeah, I think what you're going to see is aggressiveness. You're talking about maybe some of the schematics, the very small sample size that we have seen. You will see things like the two linebackers walking up to the line of scrimmage pre-snap, and you're like, oh, well, they're sending. Here come Power Eccles and Amari Campbell. They're sending those guys. Snap, those guys fall out, and here come the corners. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of disguising and things like that, trying to give you, talk football guy talk here, give you a picture and then change it on you.
Give it to me.
So I mean that's. You know how it is, where when you get to a season opener, there's all these things you're looking forward to seeing because you've been hearing about it for months. I mean,
Yeah.
the UNC defense is one of those things that I'm sure everyone from a Tar Heel perspective is looking forward to seeing.
It's a prove it year. I mean, it's like show me it. People can't buy into this improved defense until they see it. I think tons of people. I mean, looking forward to seeing what it kind of looks like against Minnesota, and then the chance to kind of see it at home for 3 games: Charlotte, Central, JMU. Just a murderer's row of home games there in September. I don't think I'm going to get to
I've
a
got
game until
Steven
the
Schramm
JMU.
and Aaron Beard texting me right now. I mean, just think about this. Like, is this not like quintessential where I am at my life? Aaron Beard
I
of the
texted.
Associated Press.
Oh, I texted Aaron. I
Are you
sent him a
texting him?
screenshot. Yeah, well, I was texting him earlier because I didn't get to talk to him yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, man, you all right?" And then he was going on, and then we started talking about Art Chansky, and then he's getting me on some old press conferences where Art was asking Mack. I mean, how about Art asked? First of all, we said earlier, saying, "Hey, Mack, your schedule is weak." That was the question, and he goes, "If this schedule, if you." Yeah, he said weak, and then he goes, "If UNC went 12-0, they still wouldn't make the 12-team college football playoff." Yeah, they would because they win the ACC.
They would be the ACC champion.
Yes, if they went undefeated in the ACC, and then obviously would have to go 13-0. But whatever. It's just he just said your schedule's weak. Like Matt, and then Matt's like, I mean, I didn't make it. I was like, what are you doing? This is Art Chansky. He's been covering UNC as a columnist for 30 years. He introduced Mack to his wife Sally, and always reminds Mack as if Mack owes him some debt for that. And then at the end, just a walk-off by Mack, Art Chansey goes, do you think Governor Tim Walz will be at the UNC Minnesota game in Minneapolis on Thursday? And what does Mack say? Thank you, Art, and walks away or something like that?
I think he said, I think he said, Art, you're a beauty. Like that.
Yeah.
Like this. And you're right. Literally walked off. Art, you're a beauty. You know what? I think I have Art Chansky books here at my house. I mean, I
do too. Because they send them out to us, as promotional stuff. I have every single Blue Blood he wrote.
I'm bad mouthing.
He's a funny guy. Yeah. I love Art. I talk to Art all the time.
I love Art too. I love him to death. But
he's unlike. He's just a character, just a journalistic character. I mean, people that cover the Tar Heels, it is a cast of characters when you get everybody there for basketball. When I was there, you get Andrew Carter with looking like a J. Crew catalog. You got AJ. You got your boy RL. When you had Big Turkey there too. I mean, it's just Andrew always calls it the Star Wars cantina.
That's a good
characters. One. Yeah. So this is where I would put an ad. When we get sponsors, this is where the ad read would be, Adam. And we're going to move on. We're going to move off of football. We broke down the schedule in a previous podcast with Mike and Julian. Talked with Bryn Renner on Friday. I'm not sure. I might put this Bryn Renner interview with yours, Adam, but I may release 2 separate ones. This may be a Sunday, Monday, 2 separate podcasts. I think both are going to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes plus. So I may just do 2 extra podcasts. Yeah, it's big hitters only. Guys, I really want you to rate, review, subscribe on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. We got to say all those things. We're trying to build a little following here. We're on Instagram as well, TikTok for all the kids. Please subscribe. We need some numbers to kind of show a proof of concept here. All right, football done. All this preview stuff, you can only say too much because Adam was just listing names. You're just listing names on defense. You don't really know who's going to be the stud, who's going to be the baller, what's it going to look like. We'll talk more after the Minnesota game. We'll have a reaction pod right after the game with Mike and producer Connor. But let's get into Adam here a bit. Your 3rd year at Inside Carolina now?
That's correct, yes.
3rd football season.
Yep.
You spent the 1st year with me and 2nd season without me, and this is your 3rd season. Now 3rd season with Jeremiah and Evan. What's it been like transitioning kind of get into your career a little bit, transitioning from a paper, from covering Elon to now being like strictly online organization that's only covering UNC. What has that transition been like from you from a journalistic standpoint?
Well, yeah, I think we could lose some viewership right here when we're getting into me. I mean, overall, it's been great, honestly. It was, I mean, you want to talk about like, what's the word? Golden parachute? Probably not using it right, but like, I mean, I was in newspapers for 22 years if you count college. No, 24 years if you count college. Um, I mean, I could not have asked for a better landing spot than inside Carolina, obviously, for a number of reasons. And I love going to the games. You know this about me. I love
Yeah.
going to the games. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons you and I have been such good friends over the years is we both love going to the games. Now there's a lot of work involved, obviously, but there's nothing like going to a damn game. Like a big game.
A
But
big game. You love the big games, the big basketball games. New York City,
oh,
Charlotte. Like a Charlotte early season basketball game when it's Power Five teams,
Duke,
or
Carolina.
a yeah, obviously Duke Carolina, but like a Tuesday night game when it's a ranked Wake Forest and a ranked UNC, and this game is going to be important for the standings in February.
Oh yes.
It is fun. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because that's the part you love, and that's kind of the reward, I think, because you work
Mhm.
your ass off in the off season.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing. I mean, this is going to sound bad, but there's the preseason football from late July until where we are right now, the week before the game. I mean, you're doing these interviews with the third string wide receiver
Mhm.
and the backup right guard, and you're trying to get some stuff out of them, and that's the tough part when you don't have games to go off of. But you look forward to the Saturday. You look forward to that basketball game at Duke or at State or at Virginia Tech, Virginia. But do you like covering one team? Do you miss covering State, Duke, Elon, high school, any of that stuff?
I do in a way. And but I do also love sort of being embedded, I guess if that's the
Yeah.
right way to say, embedded with UNC because you know, I get to cover every football game and every basketball game, every single one. I mean, you usually take one off. I think I did not cover was it UC Riverside they played last year in basketball? I think I didn't cover that one because they were playing Clemson in football the next day. And we had plenty of other help. That was one of the things with the newspaper game, Ross, was that you didn't have any help by the end. At least I didn't. Like it was a sinking ship. I think about when I was a young man, when I was 22, 23, 24. I mean, we had when I worked at the Times News in Burlington, we had 6 full-time sports people. And I think about that sometimes these days, and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like I had no idea how good I had it. I should have produced so much more than I did. I think we all didn't realize how good we had it at that point. But no, it's been great. I mean, I honestly, genuinely feel incredibly lucky to have gotten the job at IC, replacing Greg Barnes or trying to fill in for Greg Barnes after his 15-year run, whatever it was. Um, the IC audience is passionate. I enjoy interacting with them. I enjoy seeing them at games. I mean, it's wild. You know better than anyone. I mean, you're more recognizable than anybody. That the big 6'5", the great hair, the voice. Yeah, the big dog. Uh, the big dog.
Ooh, I'm getting
Um,
cramp. Fuck.
you know, but well, see if you can power through it.
Yeah, I got a leg cramp. 15.9 miles this morning.
Yeah, I didn't
Go
do.
ahead.
I fell just short of that, but
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, it's for. I don't know if I have any skills,
Yeah.
but for what I know how to do, I feel very fortunate to be able to do it for IC. Looking forward to
Yeah, and
going
like
to
you
Hawaii this year for basketball.
God, I missed that trip because of COVID. Dude, are you
Yeah.
booked out for that already?
Yep. Yep.
God, I'm jealous.
How about this
So
one?
I would.
How about this one? We leave. I was looking at it the other day. So when we leave Hawaii after the Maui tournament, we leave on Thanksgiving night. It's a red eye, and we go from Maui to Seattle, which doesn't seem like the straightest of lines to me. And we get to Seattle in the morning. Like, it's a red eye flight, like 7 a.m. Seattle time we get there. Anyway, we ended up making it back here to RDU at like 11:45 that Friday night. And then that UNC plays NC State in football the very next day. I'm really hoping it's not a noon kickoff because we're going to spend the entire day, traveling back here.
Hey, but who would have thought
Yeah.
a boy from Mebane covering UNC in Maui? So I just a little look inside the hood here. I was scheduled to. This is like my second or third year at IC, and I was scheduled to do. I was a beat writer. I was the second beat writer behind Greg Barnes. I did a lot of long other content, short form content, ran socials, Instagram, Twitter, newsletter, and then did a lot of like our very short form viral stuff as along as supplementing Greg's coverage. They were going to give me because Greg already been to Maui, so I was going to go out for 8 days. I was going to cover the first game against Hawaii because they get one game over there against a Hawaiian team to get acclimated to the time zones, and then they wait a couple days, and then they start the Maui Invitational, which I'm assuming is 3 days back to back to back.
Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah,
Wednesday of Thanksgiving.
So it's Monday. Okay, yeah. So I was gonna go out for 8 days. I was pumped. I was gonna rent a Jeep. I was gonna drive around. Can you imagine driving around the islands, the Big Island? Like I was so excited. Now this was
right now.
this was December. We were thinking about that. Say it again.
I said I can picture it right now. It sounds very vibey.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this in December, January of the year before, February. I was, it's like Ross, you're going to go out there for Maui, get ready, get the time off. You can cover one game, and then Greg's going to fly out for the next 3 games, and it's going to be the whole thing. I was jacked up. I've been looking for this my whole life. Like I've always watched the Maui Invitational, and I was all like, man, I really want to cover that. I still want to get out there at some point, maybe get some more money when this podcast goes national. And we get some big sponsors, we can fly out there for it. But then guess what happened? 2020, a little thing called COVID-19. And the Maui Invitational became the Maui Invitational in Asheville, North Carolina. Everybody got one press pass. There were people dying and people suffering and having, getting long COVID and horrible. So I don't want to put, that was how it affected me. I didn't get to go to Maui to cover UNC. But that was my experience. But I did go to the Bahamas the year before. You went to the Bahamas last year. Bahamas is great. The food was so expensive. The games are cool. I mean, it's cool. I always saw that the Atlantis on TV on ESPN. But I think Maui is just something way different. I'm not like dying to go back to the Bahamas for that event. But it was cool to do. I loved it and check that off. Anyway, that's awesome, man. I'm pumped for you. I'm gonna go and maybe in 4 years I'll go. You'll still be covering the Tar Heels probably.
Hopefully. And they do have that set up this year where it's they play Hawaii. Like they play Hawaii on a Friday night, I believe.
Are you going out for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're going to be out there for 6 days? 5-6 days?
Yeah, I guess we leave. Yeah, we'll be out there Thursday to Thursday.
Who else is going?
I'm going. Jeremiah Holloway is going. Also on the beat. And the legend himself,
Jim.
IC photographer Jim Hawkins, who I hurt his feelings a little bit, Ross, because he had sort of made the plans to come back on Friday, which that would mean we weren't going to be making the NC State football game, and made him change the plans a little bit. But I didn't think that we needed to be, rubbing it in people's faces that we're, still in Hawaii while NC State and UNC are playing a season-ending football game.
That's always the big thing. Is there's that holiday tournament and the Saturday, sometimes Friday, is that UNC NC State game, and we've had Gregory Hall's come back to cover that. Because usually the main beat writer is with the basketball team because it's 3 games. We've had this problem all the time. You kind of decide, like, can you make it back? Do you bring in a stringer? XYZ, whatever. Let's move on from that. All right, we covered your career a little bit. I think we'll have you on later on, maybe in basketball season. We'll get a little deeper in kind of the ink stain underneath the fingernails life you've lived for 20 years in Mebane. Let's get into some UNC hoops. All right, let's go through the roster. I want your takes on the additions to the roster and what you think of UNC basketball right now, Saturday, August 24th. Everybody likes roster talk, starting lineup, how you think they're going to run. We were on the phone together about 60 minutes a couple days ago talking about a small lineup. Um, didn't get the big man. Just signed a guy from Georgia Tech. What do you think about UNC basketball right now, and what that team's gonna look like?
I was very impressed by your knowledge of Tyshawn Claude. I saw like maybe 3 tweets strung together where you're just breaking the whole thing down. I had no idea that you knew his game like that. Is it the Shaq meme? I had no idea you knew his skills like that. Um, I mean, I think it could go a lot of different ways. Actually, when you were talking there about being ink stained, we should do one because I could tell you the stories of Chris Paul hitting people in the junk. I've been there for those.
Well, the best story. I'm gonna get you on this. We'll do it when it's not football season. But the Coach K, um, uh, who's a player?
Tripping,
Yeah,
Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen, Coach
Yeah.
K in the Coliseum. Coach K trying to protect the program.
Oh, he
That
told
whole
yeah, he
story.
told the ACC, I will dispense the justice here. You don't need to do anything. He literally told the ACC that. Like, I will discipline my player.
Well, do the accent. If you're gonna talk with Coach K, you got to do the accent.
Oh, and that night, Grayson Allen, just an absolute breakdown. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was unreal. Actually, you know what? I think we were talking about it. I covered 3 of the 4 Grayson Allen trip games.
Oh yeah,
If you
we've talked. You've told
if you
these
throw
stories all
in
the time.
Yeah, if you throw in the hip check he did on Garrison Brooks and at the ACC tournament that year, but yeah, no, I can give you a little Coach K if you need me to. No one lost here tonight. It's just these are 2 winning teams. No one lost this game tonight. These are winners. These guys played to win. But
It's pretty good. It's not your
yeah,
best, but it's good.
yeah. I mean the UNC roster. Yeah, I think you could have some fun with it. I made the joke to our good friend Steven Schramm the other day that they have this thing has been constructed whether they wanted to or not. Like I tend to build my fantasy basketball teams, where it's just all sexy guards and wings, and you got some bigs. At least for my fantasy basketball purposes, I need you to rebound and block shots, and everyone else will score. Just get the rebounds and we'll run. Um, yeah, I think, and knock on wood here, as you said at the end of August, I think an injury to someone in the forward department could be very problematic. But I do think they're not going to have any problems scoring points. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I guess what would you would have Elliot Cadeau at the 1,
Let's
R.J.
get into
Davis
it.
at the 2. Isn't it kind of crazy? R.J. Davis, like first team All American, uh, ACC Player of the Year, and you kind of talk more about like Cadeau, Ian Jackson, Cade Tyson, some of these other pieces, and you're like, you have literally one of the best players in the country, if not the best player.
I think he's because he's 5'11". I just think
Yeah,
people forget. But last year, dude, he averaged 20 points a game.
I got a stat for you. I shouldn't say it. I should hold on to this one, but I'm going to do this for you, Ross. You know why? Because I love you.
Big
And
hitter zone.
if this helps grow your brand, God dang it, I'm all for it. So RJ Davis last year when he led the ACC in scoring, I was looking. I don't know how I figured this out, but I was looking at some numbers. In total on the season, he scored 784 points on the season last year. Do you know how many points shy of Tyler Hansbrough's UNC and ACC record he is? How many points shy he is going into this season?
784.
Absolutely correct. And if he scores the exact same number of points this year that he did last season, he will tie Tyler Hansbrough for number 1 all time, and he's the ACC's all-time leading scorer. Hansbrough, as you know very well. So I thought that was kind of wild when I don't know why I was looking at that, but I saw that. But yeah, I mean, does Ian Jackson start? Do you start him at the
Okay,
3?
so all right.
Do
Okay,
you
so
start him at the
Elliott
3?
won. Elliott won. RJ at the 2. You think Ian? I mean, it's gonna be hard to keep Ian off the floor. I think.
I think so too. I think so too. I think he's going to be a big time weapon for. He could be their second leading scorer. Um,
Easy.
do you go big? Where you put Cade Tyson at the 3, Jalen Withers or Vin Allen Lubin at the 4, and Jalen Washington at the 5? We had fantastic access in July where Michelle Cadeau, Elliot's mom, called us up. Thank you, Michelle, and said we would love, Elliot Cadeau and Zayden High are putting on a camp for the local kids in the Chapel Hill Carborough area. It's on a Sunday. We'd love for you to come out and cover it." And we said, "Yep, we'll be there." And we're talking to Zayden High that day, and he mentioned about Jalen Washington. He goes, "That's our starting five."
Mm.
Now this is July, but some sort of question about like Armando Bacot has finally used up all his eligibility and left, and Zayden High, that's our starting five. So maybe you like Jalen Washington at the 5, Cade Tyson at the 4. If you're trying to get your best players out there, they're gonna use Vin Allen Lubin, I think. I mean, Vin Allen Lubin had two really. I know it sounds crazy because Vanderbilt won like 8 or 9 games and Jerry Stackhouse got fired, but Vin Allen Lubin's last 2 games for Vanderbilt were really productive. 20 and 10 both games. I mean, they're going to use him. Maybe you start him at the 5. He's like 6'8". So yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, I
think.
think.
Go ahead.
Let me dive in. I think how they bring the 4 and 5 is very interesting because I do think they want Jalen Washington to be the guy, kind of like they want Max Johnson to go out and win the job. They want Jalen Washington to be a beast. Maybe he just plays 25 minutes a game. Maybe he's a 20-minute, 25-minute guy at the 5, and he scores 8 points a game and grabs 5 rebounds and has 2 blocks. And then he's in there for 25 minutes, but then you rotate Van Allen Lubin at the 5 and Jalen Withers at the 5. And those lineups are a little bit smaller, but a little bit more athletic, a little more versatile. But I think, do you think Cade Tyson, he was a top 20 transfer probably in 24/7 Sports rankings. Do you think he transferred to Carolina to play the 4? I mean, if he has NBA aspirations, he is a 3. He's an NBA 3 with his shooting ability. I think he played mostly on the perimeter for Belmont there in downtown 12 South neighborhood of Nashville, Tennessee. So I don't know how much he wants to play the 4, but if you get Ian Jackson at the 3 or Drake Powell at the 3, Cade Tyson at the 4, that is a super athletic, supercharged, tons of firepower on that roster, and you can put anybody at the 5 that will just give you some rebounding and some defense. And Cade Tyson's big, man. I saw some pictures of him on UNC's Instagram. I mean, that dude is. You put him and Bo Atkinson, you line up those two guys. It's 2 good-looking studs right there. So he has size, but does he have the ability to defend a bulky college 6'10" 4, or the physicality or the desire to bang down low? But Hubert's best team was when you had Brady Manick at the best kind of run there, the 10-game run, was we had a 6'9" Brady Manick on the outside knocking down corner threes. But Brady Manick could defend his ass off and could rebound and had the want to bang a little bit when he needed to. I wonder if Cade has that in him.
I think all due respect, the last thing I should ever do is say anything bad about Brady Manick because the tomatoes will just come for me. Tomato, tomato, tomato. I think Brady Manick had the appetite to where he would mix it up. I don't know what sort of defensive prowess he really had. You remember that first Duke game where they had Armando Bacot guard Paolo Banchero in Chapel Hill, and Banchero got him in foul trouble because I think Hubert and they put Manick on Mark Williams because I think Hubert and them didn't think Brady could slide his feet. Now, obviously, he held up okay as that season went on. But and I would say to your point about Cade Tyson didn't transfer to UNC to play the 4. Totally agree. Also, Harrison Ingram didn't transfer to UNC to play the 4, but he did. He transferred to UNC to play the 3, and he was very open with us. Great guy to talk to, great guy to interview. Love Harrison Ingram to death. About how, there's a certain point in December where UNC had gotten out-rebounded, I think, by Villanova and Oklahoma. There was a little stretch there where they got out-rebounded 2 out of 3 games in December. Mm-hmm. And he said, Hubert told me, like, I have to rebound more because, having him as sort of the small ball 4 for that UNC team last year really worked out. It really spaced the floor for Armando Bacot, and they, it was a smart team. Him and Cormac Ryan, their IQ was off the charts, and having him at the 4 at 6'7", right? Well, he's listed at 6'7", NBA draft combine 6'5". So
big ass, big lower body, good rebounder.
Yeah, like thick lower half,
Yeah.
supple lower half. So Cade Tyson's
Something's
not built
weird.
like that. Cade, you're right. Cade Tyson he might be 6'8". I don't know what they list him at. Cade Tyson's brother was a good player at Clemson too, Hunter.
Yeah, he's in
You
the, he's
know,
in the NBA right now.
he is.
Yeah. So I guess like the concern. I mean, I think his team. A lot of it depends on if Cadeau can take a jump, which you would assume he
Sure.
will. And we haven't even mentioned. I mean, I think Seth Trimble's going to be a huge player. Seth Trimble's probably going to play. He's coming for RJ, coming for Cadeau, then have RJ run the one and have Trimble at the two. You could put Trimble at the three and go even
Mhm.
smaller with Cadeau, Davis, and Trimble because Trimble can guard the three, be a little athletic pest out there, and then you have Cade at the four, or you go traditional with maybe Jalen Withers at the four in Washington. I mean, it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm saying this because it's just recency bias, but like this feels like the most unknown in terms of what they're going to do game to game. You kind of have some established players, but because we haven't seen Ian Jackson play, we haven't seen Kay Tyson play in a UNC uniform, Van Allen Lubin, and those guys could all start. I mean, Van Allen Lubin could start at the five, Kate at the four,
Sure.
Ian Jackson at the three. Like those are going to be big time impact players. We haven't really seen Withers and Washington in any sort of more than 10 minutes role. So how are they going to look when they're called on to defend for 25 minutes and have to grab, 18 rebounds between the two of them? Because rebounding has been a pillar for UNC basketball. So they're going to have to count on those guys. I mean, well, can Withers take a jump? Washington's going to have to take a jump or he'll be on the bench. And then, yeah, like I said, like I think Cadeau's improvement could be what powers his team to have a better season than last year. Because I think we know what we're going to get from Davis. I think we know Tyson can score, and the scoring is not going to be an issue. But if Cadeau can take it to the next level and become a 3-point shooter and distribute and kind of help the big men, it kind of unlocks a lot of things for this roster.
I wonder, one of the things I have wondered, I don't know that I've said this to anybody, is would Ian Jackson be willing to come off the bench? Now, I know that's crazy to say willing when he's probably 18 years old and Hubert Davis played 12 years in the NBA and he's the coach. But, you know how it is. He's a guy, he's a McDonald's All-American. You know, like, you know, you ask a guy to come off the bench and, it might piss him off, might hurt his feelings. He might not like that. He might not react well to that situation. And I'm not saying he will, but like I wonder if you could have a situation where you treat it like the NBA almost, where you send your first five out there who have got a bunch of ballers, but then you tell Ian Jackson to sort of Vinny Microwave Johnson, if we talk about the bad boy Pistons, come in and just score. Like come in and just go for, 8 minutes and just go get some buckets. I wonder if they would do that. I wonder if, having him out there with maybe RJ and Cade, maybe there's not enough basketball to go around with that group. I don't know. I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of different mixing and matching type of things that you do. I did like your use of pillar too, by the way, Ross, about with rebounding. I thought you did a nice job with that.
And hey, Hubert's not known for playing his bench, so he played a little more last
No,
year. But we've talked about 10 players.
yeah.
What's the likelihood 10 players are playing more than 10 minutes? I'm not sure the math works out there. But at some point, he's going to find a big man or two and maybe just roll with them. And then there's going to be odd man out. Like, you got to think Trimble plays a lot because he came
I
back.
love Seth Trimble too, by the way. I love him.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's a great defender. He's athletic. He's the freakiest guy, in the fast break to do a lot of things. You got to
Don't
think Ian
forget,
Jackson, the five.
he got in the transfer portal too and came back. So,
Yeah,
this is a guy
yeah,
you'd like to see. You'd like to see him have success. You know what I'm saying? Like he
of
was.
course.
I will not forget the scene. You know how it is when the season ends, NCAA tournament type thing, and a team sort of falls short of its dreams out there in LA after they lost to Alabama. And the guy who was, in my opinion, the most visibly upset was Seth Trimble. I mean, he was crying. In that setup there out at LA where the Lakers play at crypto.com, whatever it's called now. His locker was right beside RJ's. And obviously trying to get around RJ to talk to him because he'd had a god awful game. But Seth was just crying. And Seth had some great comments about how, like, one of the reasons you're upset is that this team will never be together again. You know what I mean? Like those comments sort of hit a little harder when he got in the portal because you're like, well, did he know then he was going to try to transfer? But yeah, like he's one of those guys you love to have success. I mean, is Jalen Washington the most important player for UNC basketball this season? Like, could he hold their fate in his hands? Because I mean, this is a guy I don't think he's ever played over 12 minutes a game, like in terms of like what he averaged. I don't know. They obviously had some big swings and misses at big guys. Cliff Amore out of Rutgers, Jonas Adu from Tennessee. I don't know if they kicked the tires on Omar Ballo from Arizona or not. I think his NIL price tag was way too high for them. I mean, the dude went to Indiana for like 1.3 million, 1.4, something like that. They certainly pursued some of these higher name fives and didn't get them.
I
So
think,
yeah,
I mean, it can Jalen Washington, I mean, can he be a 25, 30-minute big man for you? I mean, there's a chance where he is just not. He
right.
could be. Look, I hope he is. I hope he's a beast. I hope he's grabbing 10 rebounds and scoring 10 points. I don't know if I see it. Look, he can shoot. He can do some stuff offensively. Is he strong enough? Is he athletic enough to do what UNC needs, or do they just have to roll with Vin Allen Lubin at the 5 and Withers at the 4, Kate at the 4, and be like, all right, we got to out athletic these teams and run them, and group rebound. Seth Trimble's gonna have to get you 6 rebounds as a guard, and maybe Drake Powell plays a little, comes in and plays a little
Yeah.
4. But someone's gonna be left out. Like, you have to play Ian Jackson. He's a 5-star. He's a stud. He's gonna score. Like, who doesn't play? Who's gonna be left out in the bench numbers? Is that gonna be Drake Powell? Drake Powell's on some mock drafts for next year
Yeah.
because he's that 3-and-D guy before he plays
Right.
the
We
game.
haven't
Anyway,
even talked about Drake Powell, and
I know
for
people love him.
like every team in the ACC other than like a Duke, if Drake Powell was there on that roster, he'd be like the most known, acclaimed, highly regarded freshman. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we haven't even mentioned him.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up. Good basketball talk there. I mean, I love talking like the what ifs for roster and stuff, and it's kind of exciting. Just like football, it's kind of exciting to think about it and dream about it and wonder about what the roster could look like because you don't know until the ball is tipped off. You got any questions for me, Adam, as we wrap this up here on a Saturday morning? You're in Mebane. I'm right down the road in Greensboro. Hey, how about this? Give me some advice as a homeowner.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. What was it? My dad had a great line about make sure you know a great plumber and make sure you know a great mechanic or something like
Yeah.
that. And I mean, Ross, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you too. I mean, you definitely do not shy away from a challenge or an adventure. That is one thing about the big dog. Shocking big dog did not make it into the name of the podcast, but that's fine. It's your podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would say, and I know you're trying to really do some major home improvements. And I know sometimes patience may not be one of your top virtues, but I would say don't try to rush it. I mean, you got the dang house. I mean, do it in segments. Don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great to have you back. How do you feel about UNC's quarterback situation? Like, I don't know if we ever talked about that. We don't have to. We ain't got
Shit,
to.
we didn't even. I said we'd go back and talk about it.
We don't have
Putting
to.
the biggest news at the end of the podcast here. It's worth talking about. Mack Brown yesterday in Chapel Hill. I was there for the press conference. You're listening to this either on Sunday or Monday. Friday was the game week press conference for the game against Minnesota, which is on a Thursday on Fox, 8 p.m. Kind of out of nowhere, Matt goes, yeah, we're probably going to play 2 quarterbacks. We're going to see how it goes. It was very confusing. If one guy's playing well, we're going to roll with him, but we're ready to play 2 quarterbacks maybe for the rest of the season. And then like
Right.
a couple follow-ups later, you asked about it. I think I had a question. I didn't really expect it. Abby asking questions, but I couldn't help myself. It's like, Mac, is this a ploy to keep Minnesota on their toes and make them have to game plan for a running quarterback, a left-handed quarterback, a pocket quarterback, and have to prepare for 2 types of offenses that could be run with Connor Harrell and Max Johnson? I think the assumed thing was Max is going to be the guy, kind of how I was thinking, but it does sound like, and I was texting with Aaron Beard earlier, like, it sounds like Mac wants to play 2 quarterbacks or wants someone to earn the job and prove he has the job, maybe against Minnesota. So maybe they will have 2 quarterbacks. But I left that press conference a little bit more confused about the situation, and maybe that was the goal. You wrote about it yesterday. You're parsing through the transcript and the audio. What are your takes now? Because I just think you can't do this thing with two quarterbacks, especially when they're so different. You can't run the same offense with those guys, and one guy's left-handed. Like the handoff is different and nuanced, and your different receivers on different sides, and the left tackle and right tackle are blocking a little bit differently based on
Hmm.
what arm you're throwing from. What did you take from what Mack said? Like, what do you think he was doing? What do you think we'll see on Thursday?
I mean, I think that it's a good question. What I think he was doing, I think that he was maybe giving himself some runway to whatever the heck they end up doing out at Minnesota in a couple days. But yeah, like I thought that I don't know if you took it this way, but I thought that he almost changed his answer in a way. Well, he brought it up in his opening comments. We would like to play true quarterbacks. We're planning on true quarterbacks. Then my ears perked way up when he goes, and we'd like to do it for the whole season.
Yeah,
I
you
was
can hear
like,
people
well,
typing too. You can hear people typing and
absolutely.
tweeting out. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know how it is when that happens. You're like, "Oh crap! Am I make sure? Did I hear him right? Did I hear him right?"
yeah,
Like I don't want
yeah.
to post this thing and I misheard him somehow. Max Johnson has thrown 900 passes in the SEC. Ross, do you know how many times through the spring, the summer, and now August I have heard Mac Brown say, "Max Johnson has thrown 900 passes in the SEC." Do you know what? He ain't thrown 900 passes in the SEC. He's thrown 784 passes. I told Mac this one day in the spring. I love Mac. I think he likes me. And he kind of like gave me one of these, like, just get out of here with that BS, Adam. Like, I was like, Mac, it really is 784. It's not 900, but he's sticking to 900 passes. I mean, yeah, when I said, so one of the follow up questions was for me was you saying that you hope to play two quarterbacks, will play two quarterbacks, does that mean no one won the job? Like you're
Yeah.
not, no one separated. You're not thrilled with that. And he said, like, don't misunderstand me. And I'm like, okay. Um, so yeah, I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
like
like I'm confused.
like as you said, I think every indication we have gotten is that Max has been considered ahead of Connor as the starter. But and some of the things I had written earlier is that look, if Max Johnson starts, whoever starts the first game, that doesn't mean that the quarterback competition is over because you could certainly see the other guy at some point if the starter week one is not performing. You know what I mean? I think if Max
Mhm.
Johnson throws two touchdown passes in the first half of Minnesota, I don't think you're going to see much of Connor Harrell. But yeah, I mean, I guess they need somebody to win the job. The job hasn't been won yet. Um,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know what
know. I
I don't know
I
what.
think I think Max. They start with Max. They roll him out. If they can't move the ball with him, maybe they throw out Connor in the third or fourth series and see if that works. But dude, I don't like this back and forth stuff. I mean, no one likes two quarterbacks. It never works. I think it is an indication that the fact that he hasn't named something maybe is to just keep the competition rolling. Because after Minnesota, it's a breather. I mean, I don't want to. Charlotte's probably not going to be a world beater. Central certainly isn't. JMU's always had a pretty good team, but they lost their head coach. So maybe
Yep,
that competition rolls into Charlotte, Central, JMU, and then they pick one for at Duke in the fifth game. That's as far as I've gotten in the schedule mentally. I think after that, it's Pitt at home and
you're right.
Georgia Tech at home. But like
It is homecoming.
maybe
Yeah.
they just extend the competition and to see like, all right, what do these guys look like when it's live bullets in Minnesota, when in a home crowd, like what can they really do? It's because you can never replicate what it's like playing in an away crowd or when it really matters. So maybe that's what it is. And maybe they're going to play two, or maybe they just max, balls out in the first game. And they just roll with him.
Another thing to this, there's so many different layers to this to me is that like do you have a perception problem when and I know Mac has said the only most important thing is winning the game. I understand that totally. But do you have a perception problem? Do other programs shit talk you if you get a transfer quarterback experienced quarterback, guy who's played 30 college games, had productive seasons. You get him out of the portal and then you don't start him. Like, does that allow other programs to say, well, look, why would you go to UNC? They got Max Johnson, didn't even start him. They put him in a quarterback competition with a short little dude who runs fast.
I
You see what
think
I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and
I get that, but I also think just winning the game is what matters more.
of
I think
course,
if Connor can win you 10 games, that's worth way more than perception.
sure. Don't forget about Max Johnson's dad, Big Brad Johnson from the mountains of North
Yeah.
Carolina. Where did he play college football? FSU. Mac Brown is an FSU guy. They got all sorts of FSU connections going on there. I mean, heck, Max Johnson Ross committed to UNC before the damn portal even opened in the winter. He'd
Yeah.
already committed. He'd already said, I'm transferring, I'm going to UNC. Portal wasn't even open.
That was an indication, Chip Lindsey and Mack Brown. They knew they needed someone, and they were going to take. They didn't want to have to get in some battle trying to get someone that maybe was a little bit better. Because UNC for
Or
football,
more
I mean,
expensive.
exactly. I mean, UNC for
Yeah.
football guys. Hate to break it to you, it's average. It's middle of the road. Maybe not as bad as Boston College or Purdue. But it is. I mean, Purdue's Big Ten. I mean, it is. It's not like people are banging down the doors to come be the quarterback at UNC. It should be, but it's just not that way in terms of NIL right now and trying to make the college football playoff. So they probably Max Johnson. All right, we need experience. We need someone who's done it. We need to add some maturity and age to this quarterback room. This guy wants to come. We got to take him. And look, a guy transferred out. And they had to bring in another guy with some experience, Jacoby Criswell. So this is a test for Mac. He doesn't have a quarterback to save his ass. You're down 2 scores in the third quarter, and you roll out Sam Howell, chucking up to Diami Brown and carrying your team against a Wake Forest team. I mean, Sam Howell won games for UNC, as did Drake May, putting the offense on the back and just outscoring the other teams. I don't think you're gonna have that luxury. I don't think if Max Johnson was Sam Howell or Drake May, he'd be in the NFL right now. He's a 5th-year guy, right?
He is. This is his 5th year. Hey, you know what? He's got another year of eligibility after this one, Ross. Like, him
COVID
and
guy.
Jacoby Criswell both have 2 years left on their college clocks. So take that for what it's worth.
We might move. I wish I got back to the quarterback stuff and put it more at the beginning. That was my fault as the host. I'm still getting the hang of this. All right, guys, we're going to let Adam go here. Big hitters only. Appreciate you listening all the way through. Hopefully this is entertaining. Hopefully it was informative. I think Adam brings a folksy approach to his podcasting in terms of his delivery. We got a good run through of both sides of the ball, and I think the basketball talk was people will get a good kick out of that kind of as we roll into the fall here. September, October, right around the corner here. Guys, rate, review, subscribe. Please subscribe on Spotify and follow on Apple, either or. Just we need to get the numbers up and kind of start building this. So we have a proof of concept. I can try to sell to some sponsors here. Adam, thanks for taking some time out of your Saturday morning. It's 12 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. Have a great day. It's probably about 75, 80 degrees now. It's warming up. But guys, thanks for listening. Anything else, Adam?
I'm proud of you for those 15 miles this morning, Ross. That ain't no joke, baby.
Dude,
I mean, that's some
sucked.
big boy stuff.
It sucked. I usually like to start running at 4:45 or 5. I got 5. Started at like 5:50 this morning. Had a couple beers last night. I got one of my best friends in town from Seattle. Him and his pregnant wife, Steph. Shout out Davis Hammer and Steph. So we got some beers last night. I didn't think I wanted to get miles in this morning because I need to start ramping up to 15, 18 on these long runs. And so I was like, look, it may not be 100%, but if I can push through, then I'm gonna be stronger for my next run when I'm not a little hungover. I wasn't really hungover, dude. But I'm eating gels mid-run. I'm eating these like gummies I bought. I'm drinking these like electrolyte drinks before, during, and after. I go to my car halfway through the run and rip like these powders. And I was doing a gummy running through Fisher Park. Not a gummy, a gel. Like squeezing a gel like some marathon runner. It's like I'm so ready to get done with this marathon.
You need somebody there off to the side handing you like the old school like little white cup and you just throwing the water on your face, and like keep it on going and something like that.
And luckily we've had a little break in the weather here, so it's 55 degrees. I'm going shirtless through downtown, running past homeless people. You see running in the mornings, you see the town awake. I started at 5:55 and I drove to, a little neighborhood that kind of ran downtown, and you kind of see slowly the sunrise, and you see the town awake, and then it's me and the homeless people, then it's me and the couples getting coffee, and then the old people walking their dogs, and I'm so ready to be done with this. This is my longest run. Hopefully people are still listening to this. I'm sure they're enthralled by my recap of my Saturday morning runs.
What in the world do you think about on those runs? Like, that's one thing when I run, I like to sort of, okay, all right. Well,
yeah,
I sort of go raw on my runs where I just like listen to my feet hitting the pavement and start thinking about different things.
It's boring. I do enjoy just crushing podcasts. I mean, I was running for 2 hours and something minutes today. I was just crushing podcasts. Anyway, all right, guys, appreciate you listening. We will talk to you next time. The next time you hear us will either be the Bryn Renner podcast or it'll be a reaction podcast to Minnesota. Adam, who wins UNC Minnesota?
You know what? I keep thinking Minnesota's going to win, but I'm going to say UNC wins. Yeah, why not? I'm going to say UNC wins 24-20. It's supposed to be a gold out too, I think, up there. So look for a lot of gold shirts, I guess.
Wonder if Tim Waltz will be there. You're flipping the coin.
Governor Walls. Will Governor Walls be there, Mack?
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys.